Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, happy Monday, happy new week. Welcome to another beautiful, blissful week right here on Western Spring Television. Thank you so much for starting your day, your Monday, and your week with us on Morning Spring, where we bring it to you as it is. We tell you what is dropping when it drops, as it drops, and from the real source. My name is Emmanuel Ujadugale. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning. You already know what we do for you on the show. We bring to you happenings around you in the socio-political and socio-economic sphere, even the social-cultural. And we try to make sense of these issues for you to give you a better perspective and help you understand them in a broader way. You can follow us live on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. You can search for Western Spring Television. On Twitter at WSTV_NG. And of course, you can check out our YouTube channel, or you can catch up on past episodes of this program and other interesting programs. And do well to subscribe, do well to spread the word. And you can also watch us live on Star Times channel 190 on the DTT platform. Thank you so much for beginning your Monday with us.
Well, I will start by saying thank God that you all survived the weekend, the hardship of the fuel crisis and the cash crunch. I'm Temitope Ajalaluwa, and thank you for joining us this morning. Emmanuel, how are you?
Well, I'm obviously not fine. As you can see, I'm very, very much affected by some of the things happening in this country. You know, it's just a lot of pressure, a lot of hardship, and you can, apart from feeling your own problems, you also feel the pain of other people. You know, when you hear stories, when you read stories, it's just unfortunate. People slumping in banks, people, you know, it's just so saddening, you know.
It has a way of weighing down on us all.
Yes. Well, you know that we have 3 segments on the program, and we just hope that the government does enough to rectify all of the issues affecting us as people. You know, we pray that the government does enough to bring back the good times, or at least the manageable and comfortable times. We have the papers ready for you. After that, we'll be going over to the interview segment. And of course, you'll be joining me on Spring Trends to know who is trending, what is trending, why they're trending, and what people are saying about the who, the what, and the why. When we get back from this break, we'll bring you the papers to stay with us. All right, welcome back to the show. Let's go straight to the papers that we have for you this morning. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper, Monday, February 6, 2023, says Buhari under pressure to end failed Naira disasters. Governors in talks with presidency. Emefiele has reps mill emergency session. President must intervene. Crisis affecting turnout at rallies. Senators and reps. That story you have on pages 2 and 34. You can see now the real motives behind the agitation of the senators, of the people in the National Assembly.
Yes, I quite agree with them that the president must intervene quickly too, because the people are getting pushed to the wall now, and once they cannot take it anymore, they're going to just stand back and face the government squarely, and we're going to see, you know, a really bad backlash from the people, because it's really been disturbing. Really, people don't have access to their money, and so it's been hard all the while, but then now you have money, you can't even access it, you can't even feed well. It's really terrible. We have people rejecting transfers, and I'm sure it's because of the network issues surrounding that. So it's really tough, really.
Well, it is tough. It is tough. And when you see the videos coming out of different parts of the country, it reminds you of October 2020 and the period preceding that. This was how it began. You know, people just being, ordinary people just being frustrated, very agitated, and of course sad. I like to use that word, so because the sadness is, I mean, you can't use your own money, your own hard-earned money that you decided to keep with a particular bank, but you can't access it for some reason. You can't buy food, you can't, you know, move around. In addition to the fact that there's still a fuel scarcity. You know,
Really?
in addition to the fact that there is no electricity, in addition to the fact that security is, at least give people one thing to cheer about. You know, it's really sad. The president must act, except of course we don't have a president, which I don't know, it seems to not be true. It does appear as if we have a president. Probably doesn't, is clueless at the moment, and if he is clueless, he should probably step aside or seek help. You know, go outside, ask people to help you. The same way he likes to travel out for medical tourism and all of those enjoyments that
I
he
was
goes for.
thinking this morning that we probably have reached a time in our society where we need to contract our leadership out, because we seem not to have capable hands.
Yes, they've all failed, you know, from the president to the people in the National Assembly down to those heading government parastatals. And the fact that we hold on to terrible government despite our failures is what really baffles me. I mean, it is on record that a British Prime Minister resigned 45 days after office because she cannot continue. She could not continue. She did not see herself delivering on her campaign promises. The Prime Minister of Jacinda Ardern, she had a second term of 5 years. She had just spent 2 years, and then she chose to resign because she felt, in her own words, she no longer has enough in the tank. That's how leadership is. But here, even when they are obviously failing terribly, woefully, you still see them clinging on to power.
Even when they've outlived their tenure, they still want to
be relevant.
Exactly.
It is very sad. And the senators and reps are not saying that the crisis are affecting people's ability to get money, people's ability to eat. Their major concern is that it's affecting turnout at rallies. It is a silly thing to say, you know, to even to give priority to.
Genuine concern
At all.
It's about themselves still.
It is really. I don't want to use certain words, but sometimes you get frustrated, and then you know that these people are not even affected by it. You know, like the APC man said last week, Thursday or Friday or thereabout. I don't think Peter Obi has a problem with cash. I don't think Atiku has a problem with cash. I don't think Tinubu has it. I don't think so. But it is those of us who are at the middle or lower rung of the ladder who will have problems with this. And we're beginning to hear certain stories from different parts accusing Emefiele of feeding President Buhari false information. And I begin to wonder, who the president is being fed false information?
How?
What exactly is false information?
Exactly.
Who is, that means the president is
just
on the...
sits in a place and then it leaves the government for other people to run.
So whatever you tell him is what he does.
The president should have access to, you know, the dailies
Does the
on
president
whatever.
know? He strikes me as an unaware person, someone who doesn't even... He doesn't care. He has made that clear
declaration
that he doesn't
over
care
time.
what happens.
I'm not aware. He says that a lot.
And then, funnily, we have another presidential candidate who says he doesn't like social media because people insult him. So you can see that Nigeria is on the trajectory. It may be well, it may not be well. Whatever it is, we pray that those of us who are ordinary people can afford at least the basic things of life. Well, away from Buhari's failure and his pressure that is under to end this crisis, you have very disturbing pictures there of a crowded Abuja schools where pupils learn on bare floor. That's pupils of LEA Primary School, Lugbe Zone 9 in Abuja, sitting on the floor while learning under leaking roofs.
This is
on
not
Wednesday.
a remote area, Emmanuel. This is part of the metropolis, Lugbe. And we have this in the capital territory. I'm not even expecting anywhere in Abuja to have this.
Well, you know that some parts of Abuja are still remote. Even at that,
it's a school.
This is the most terrible thing that can happen to us.
If the government really, well, we should have seen that. If the government could not deliver well on education, I wonder what the government would deliver well on.
I mean, security is even terrible in Abuja.
Yes.
There are bandits moving around,
Very terrible.
taking people, causing issues. And then you look at the implication of this for education. On Saturday, one of our shows, we had a very young person who's a lecturer. I think he's 21 or thereabout, lecturer at a popular university. You know, students like this cannot aspire to be a teacher. They cannot aspire to be lecturers. They cannot aspire to have anything to do with the education sector because they are being brought up the wrong way. It wouldn't take, and you see, funny thing is, you have major financiers of political campaigns, people who are not politicians themselves, but who have enough money to throw around to back in people who may not even win the election. And then there are things like this that need to be solved. Children these are children, like really, really young children.
Yes.
They need education.
So it just goes to say that whatever would not benefit people, they're not ready to invest in it. They're not ready to put their money in it.
It is unfortunate, and we call on well-meaning Nigerians, people of means, to all over the country, even here in Osun State, a particular school, I think Ethiopian High School, has the same problem. Pupils learning, in fact, under the trees because their classrooms are terrible.
Yes.
You know.
And yeah, it says leaking roofs as well.
Yes.
So it's as good as staying
under the sky. Well, at the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper, police FBI hunt killers of Nigerian pastor's wife. That's on page 5. Police FBI hunt killers of Nigerian pastor's wife. Page 5 of the newspaper. Above the nameplate, interim government illegal, parties warn federal government, page 8 of the Punch newspaper. We've been hearing some rumors, some stories of a possibility of election not holding, and then the federal government constituting an interim government. That would set us back way years into pre-1999 when we had the Ernest Shonekan's interim government, Abdulsalam Abubakar, and the rest. It's not a good story coming out from the political sector.
It's not, and then it's something that is obvious anyway. When you see the attack in Katsina, when you see the attack in other parts, even in I think Ondo, during the weekend, you know that some parts of Nigeria are not safe at all. They're not safe, and what those people will be thinking about is not election. It's their safety first. I don't even expect them to come out for elections, probably because of grievance. I would expect that is shown. I wouldn't expect them to come out for elections because they're even in their houses. They're being mobbed. They're being attacked. So what's the essence of coming out for elections? And so if that is happening, I don't see how, if it goes, really deep, if we have it, in several places at the time, the elections really might not hold in those places. And I wonder what elections we're having there.
Well, it is worrisome that this warning is being, I think it's a preemptive warning just to get people to start asking questions and probably put pressure on the federal government to shelve any such plans, But that's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. You can get that story there. On page 31, telecom subscribers sue government over tax. Page 31. An extension, INEC silent as PVC collection ends. As on page 25, one of my favorite countdowns ended yesterday, February 5th, 2023. That was the deadline for the collection of the permanent voters cards, and we must give kudos to INEC.
Yes.
The original date was January 22nd. They extended by a week to 29th, and then another week to February 5th. And at this point, you cannot fault them if they refuse to extend again. I mean, they've given us enough time.
I'm not expecting any extension from INEC, except it's going to be a watered down and compromised situation now. But INEC has done well so far.
Yes, INEC has done well. Away from INEC, the last story on the face of the Punch newspaper this morning, it says, Najatu chased Tinubu to London for PCC appointment, coming from Keyamo. Festus Keyamo is the spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. And the director of the civil society, the head of the civil society directorate of that council, recently tendered a resignation. And Najatu there saying some very funny things about Tinubu, saying he cannot hold his cup, he's not fit, is this and that. And there's been some back and forth between herself and some members of the PCC. Now Keyamo is revealing that she chased Tinubu to London. You see, that's the thing with politicians. They never do you good and forget about it.
They never. Never. It's always a vindictive game at the end of the day. When you're in the same camp, nothing is wrong with you. But once you're out, once you step out of the camp, you have everything wrong with you then.
Well, I think that Keyamo has the habit of trying to blackmail people. I wouldn't say blackmail now, but trying to ridicule people who have somewhat benefited from himself or from his paymasters. I remember clearly when he had the run-in with, I think, Idris Abdul Karim, either Idris or Abdul Karim or Rugged Man, and he came out with screenshots of text messages where the singer was asking him for financial aid for his mother's health and all that. But those things are unnecessary. It's childish. People have said Keyamo is childish, and daily he proves to toe that line. This is unnecessary. But he also chased certain appointments. I mean, for a man who sued the Lagos Assembly in 1999 for clearing Bola Tinubu, he shouldn't even be talking. He's a hypocrite. If you sued a legislature for clearing someone to run for government over forgery of documents, how come you're defending the same man many years down the line?
Obviously, he has found out eventually that the forgery was false.
Either that or some things have changed hands. Well, that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to the Daily Trust. We have the banner headline saying, bandits attack, 71 buried in Katsina communities. And now the riders, more still missing, 27 women kidnapped. We are left on our own. That's the locals saying that. Buhari article condemn attack. Well, for me, more of this condemnation are mere words of mouth now. No actions to back them up, and nothing. Imagine the numbers of people buried in Katsina over the week.
Yes, 71 people.
That's alarming. And we have 27 women already kidnapped, and they're still there.
Well, so that's one thing we need to commend the Daily Trust newspaper for. You know, always constantly reminding us of the fact that we're in trouble. Yes. We're in trouble. Even though it seems to be more pervasive in the north, the truth is that we are in trouble. Because we're one country. Yes. Whatever happens up north affects down south. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could see when the road was blocked and the nomads decided that they were not shipping cattle or food. I think that was last year or 2 years ago. There was a hike in price. So whatever happens up there happens. These are not just birds. These are not animals. There are 71 people. Like you always say, 71 direct families affected, and multiple other families affected, buried as a result of bandit attacks that are incessant. And I don't know why. This is the president's own state. You know, one would expect that in the president's hometown, in the president's state, because he is president, some things should not, even if it's not the right way, or at least some things should change. But this is terrible. And the 27 women who were kidnapped, we cannot just begin to
understand what you're going through, right?
The physical and mental problems that they would be going through. And then this condemnation of the attack by Buhari and Atiku is just, I mean, you don't condemn what you could have prevented in the first place. Yes. We are more reactive than we are proactive. And it's very sad. You can see the disturbing graphics. There's 7 affected communities in Bakori local government, you know, 7 of them there. And see the locals saying that they've been left on their own by, of course, the government that should be protecting them.
Yes, and that's why we cannot, it's really not something that should come as a shock when the government visited his own hometown and it was
Yes, there's a lot of frustration around there.
Yes. All right, just away from that, the bottom strip of the paper says, Badaru appoints Sanusi as new emir of Duse. That's more of that is on page 5. All right, Naira crisis, reps may reconvene before elections, Gbajabiamila. I think my problem here is the fact that they may reconvene. It should be a recurring thing all through the period of the crisis. As much as the people are in distress, they perhaps need to keep having all this back and forth meetings with stakeholders to really get to the root of this and solve it really before things blow up.
Yes, they need to solve it before there's an outburst. You know, it's like the dam is full, the dam is overflowing already and it's about to burst. But the reps, most of them are seeking re-election, and so they have their campaigns to run.
Imagine.
You know, and you know that they are highly placed enough to not necessarily lack these things. They can get them again.
So what will be the basis for the re-election that is seek?
But that's the problem with our people, the electorate. That's the problem.
You know, I'm really looking forward to the dynamics of this coming election, how people will make informed decisions on whom they choose to elect.
Unfortunately, because of our religious and ethnic sentiments, we have failed to see beyond our noses. And that has somehow crippled our ability to make informed decisions. In an ideal situation, a government that has failed woefully, a government that has reversed the gains of years before it came. I mean, Buhari spent the first 1-2 years of his administration blaming the PDP's 16 years. But his key ministers, some of them were in the PDP. Rotimi Amechi was a 2-time PDP governor, was a Speaker of the House of Assembly in Rivers State on the platform of the PDP. But he's one of the key members of the cabinet. So why are you still blaming the PDP? You met the dollar rate at 120 or thereabouts, go 800 now. You took petrol from 185 to 600 naira now. You took a bag of rice from 15,000-20,000 to what it is now. Ideally, the people should vote along this line. Security is terrible. You can't go to bed with your eyes closed. You can't build your house in peace. The people should vote along these lines, but they don't. They won't. The vote is from our area. The vote, he practices the same religion with me. When you do that, you shortchange yourself. You mortgage your future and that of your children by putting, by putting someone who may not be able to solve the problem there, someone whom you did not vote on basis of competence, but on basis of some other sentiment. And then when things go wrong, you begin to complain. Meanwhile, you caused it yourself. So that's the problem when these men are saying that they may reconvene. Of course, they don't have the problem that we have. The speaker, he flies everywhere he's going. He has a convoy that is constant. He drives into any filling station today and they will attend to him first. He goes into any bank today, he will get the cash. So they don't really care about the ordinary people.
So I guess it's left to the people to, you know, seize their own destinies, you know, in their hands and make, you know, good out of it. All right, just on page, I really can't see that page right now. All right, 6 killed, property razed as gunmen attack Ondo villages. Like I was saying, I mean, Ondo also had their own fair share of insecurity issues over the weekend as well, and properties were also destroyed. And
that's what I meant when I was saying that whatever affects people in the north will affect us in the south, because some of these bandits are displaced by the efforts of the Nigerian Army and Air Force, and they come down south. They are not trained vocationally. They don't have any soft skills. They would go back to the life they've been living, the life of crime. And so people down south have to pay the price for it. I mean, the war killings are still fresh in our minds, you know. And then now they're seeing people just going about their own businesses and they're killed. Very terrible situation there.
Another sad one here. 1 injured as thugs attack Adamawa governor's wife's convoy. And I know that this might gain more attention than the ones we've been talking about, than the 71 people that were buried. than the 6 people that were killed in Ondo. You know, these are the sorts of things that we see. All right, but just below the nameplates, quickly, PDP, APC bicker over Tinubu struggles for democracy. A lot of back and forth between the PDP and APC, and it's always about their own struggles, not the people's. And then just on page 24, airlines blocked funds, travel agents fright over $500 million revenue, 721,000 job losses. And it's still more crisis for the people, more sad news. People are still losing their jobs in numbers. Cancer kills 700,000 Africans every year, WHO has said so, the World Health Organization. We've been having some concerns about cancer, you know, being going to be prominent.
Yeah, it was a World Cancer Day over the weekend, and then some stories, some amazing facts, some scary facts about cancer, you know, came up, and it speaks to the fact that we also, as people, need to invest in early detection. Don't dismiss any signs. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what signs to look out for. But then, for women, there's lumps and all of that. But if you feel any type of way at all, the least thing you should do is self-medicate. You know, you should go seek proper medical diagnosis. Well, let's move on to the Guardian. We'll just run through the stories there. Fuel naira scarcity depletes productivity, worsens inflation. And you see a number of riders there. ASCSN, more workers to sit at home over intolerable fares. Not producing will lead to food shortage, retrenchment, says Food Union. Economy has disenfranchised MSMEs. We're starving, Nigerians lament. Protests playing into hands of those seeking election shift. NLC president warns. Government making mockery of monetary systems, says NECA. House may reconvene before February 25th elections over cash crunch, says Bajabia Mila. Falana, activist, one of social unrest. Afenifere Buhari's 7-day request to resolve currency crisis too long. As on page 6 of the paper. Article tasks CBN on naira availability, warns against bullion ban tendencies. And IPOB alleges plan to attack Atiku in the southeast. And below the nameplate, 20 million naira to treat cancer case, 1 million naira for radiotherapy. If you need any reason to invest in early detection and prevention, here is your reason. 20 million naira to treat it, 1 million for radiotherapy, and the other, you know, hospital cost that would be added. And last story there, APC divided, ignore El-Rufai's outbursts at your peril. Ex-aspirants want party leadership. That's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, that's where we'll leave it at. You see pictures there on that paper of people at the ATMs and, of course, cars at the queue of the filling station in Lagos State there. That's all on the papers this morning. I will go over to our guest after this break to make some conversations around the crisis rocking in the All Progressives Congress. When we get back, we get to find out who our guest is and the gist of today's interview. Stay with us.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. the Hausa Muslim figure, was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history.
All right, welcome back to the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Well, it's another very beautiful day to continue the conversation around us, around the socio-political and socio-economic happenings in the country. Of course, you've been following the political scene. Temi Dokwa, you understand that there's a lot of issues with the two major political parties.
Yes, I think the first was the back and forth on their candidacy, if it should be repealed or, you know, if it should stand. And, we had the APC as well suing the presidential candidate yes. of the PDP over the SPV, and all of that. And we've also had, you know, PDP as well doing the same to the presidential candidate of the APC on his documents and whether he should, so, you know, all of that.
All right, well, that's that. Well, we are now joined live by our guest who will be joining us on phone to discuss, live on the phone, to discuss some of the issues that we have around the APC. Well, the APC seems to be having crisis within its rank, and we're joined live now by former Minister for Communications, Minister of Communications, Adebayo Shitu, joins us live. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Hello, good morning. Well, we're expecting that Dr. Adebayo Shitu joins us on the show this morning to talk about, he was a member of the PDP, Buhari's first term, of the APC rather, Buhari's first term. He was a minister there. And of course, so it means that he has an in-depth knowledge of the APC, both as a politician and as a cabinet member. And some of the things coming out of the APC, like we read on the Guardian newspaper, you know, ex-aspirants telling the APC to ignore El-Rufai's outburst at their peril. Well, we're told that we're joined again by Dr. Adebayo Shitu, former Minister for Communications. Good morning, Dr. Shitu. Good
morning. Please speak aloud.
Oh, okay. Right. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you. Please be consistently speaking to the microphone.
Oh, all right then. So let's begin with what you make of the crisis affecting your party at the moment, the All Progressives Congress. What do you make of the outburst by both the presidential candidate and some governors that he has in his ranks?
Well, really, there's no. A lot of people expect that in political parties we will continue to have the silence of the graveyard. Political parties are, I mean, APC, for instance, is made up of more than 40 million people. You don't expect people to, all of these people to see things from the same perspective all of the time. And when issues are affecting Nigeria in general and they arise, you expect people to make comments. I think the issue of the so-called suspected, people frustrating, allegedly frustrating, trying to frustrate, is an issue which arose and which particularly Rufai mentioned, and the wife of the president also supported it. I have also had cause to make a lot of comments on this in various.
All right, this opposing view.
Because vigilance is the eternal price of liberty, as is often said. So some of our governors were very vigilant, and once they raised the issue, I mean, people who were suspected to want to frustrate are made count, as it were. So for me, there's no crisis in the party. We are still going on, to victory by the grace of God.
All right, since you have said this opposing views, people having different views in your party is inevitable, how do you see it affecting your party positively or negatively in the coming elections?
I am telling you, even Mr. President came out to pledge. Mr. President came out to pledge that Nigerians should give him 7 days within which to settle the issue of, currency availability. And you would also recall that subsequently, Mr. President also attended the National Rally. I mean, so there's no crisis. It's not, I think there's a crisis that can tear the party apart.
Well, we're talking about tearing the party apart now. Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State did say last week that there were some elements within the presidency, within the Aso Villa, working against the party's victory at the polls. Do you have an idea as to who and what Governor El-Rufai may have been making reference to?
El-Rufai made the appropriate statement. There's no point, digging deeper, more so that Mr. President has come out. Because, I mean, the issue that El-Rufai felt concerned about is the currency non-availability to Nigerians, which opposition parties were cashing in on, taking advantage of it and telling Nigerians, look at how APC is doing. I mean, what APC is doing. It was not APC. It was government decision. It's not every member of APC that is in the Buhari government. I mean, people should get this right. I mean, what we have is the Buhari government. Of course, Buhari is a member of the party. But all party members are not necessarily vicariously liable for whatever government does. Because some other member of the party government would have done things differently.
Well, there are those who say that since the president is the #1 party man and he oversees the affairs of the country, he should have been able to sort out these issues, particularly asking for 7 days. The Afeni Ferry has just released a statement saying that 7 days request is too long to solve the crisis.
Yes, you would agree with me that across the country things are getting better. Asking for 7 days does not mean he's going to wait for 7 days before he takes action. And if it will be true, if people will be true to their conscience, things are getting better. within the last 3 days.
Aladi, when you say things are getting better, right there in Oyo State, in Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State, there are protests, every now and then. Same thing across the country. In fact, over the weekend, Governor Seyi Makinde had to provide free buses for people to cushion the effect of the fuel scarcity and the cash crunch. How do you mean that things are getting better?
I mean, are you saying you are a Nigerian and you live in Nigeria? Are you saying as of today, things were as they were 4 days ago?
Yes.
Well, I can say to you that I have still not been able to take money from the bank, my own money, and I'm sure there are millions of Nigerians who still have that problem.
Keeping vigils at the ATM booths.
Well, Mr. President is the head of the government, and he has given a pledge, and I live in Abuja, and I know that things are getting better.
All right, so now let's get back to your party now as a whole. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State was also in the news recently. He lent credence to what Governor El-Rufai said, and he particularly spoke about the currency redesign and said that the president, who is being surrounded by those who are saying certain things to him, and then just recently, I think yesterday or thereabout, former national chairman of the party, Adams Oshimole, and SA to the president, Ajuri Ngelale, said that the president was being fed false information. How does the president, the commander-in-chief, get fed false information and then he acts on it? How does that happen? You were a minister in his cabinet.
You said I was a minister. I'm still a minister.
No, I'm asking you.
I need to know who are feeding me.
No, I'm asking you that is it possible for the president, with the level of information, the gatekeeping and the process he has around him, to be fed false information? Is that possible?
Of course, he's a human being, and people around could be mischievous. I mean, of course, it's possible. He's a human being. He's not perfect. He's not an angel, and he's not God. And those who spoke because of their feeling, of their suspicion. And because they were right, Mr. President came out to make pledges. If they were not right, Mr. President would not have made the pledge that Nigerians would give him 7 days. Within which to correct, the past.
All right. My colleague will take it now.
All right, sir. As a Nigerian first, before being a politician, what have you figured to be the source of this, crisis, in the country, and what do you think are the lasting solutions to this?
Well, with regard to the fuel scarcity, I think one problem that we must admit is the fact that we have not been able to repair all the fuel refineries. I don't have an answer for that because I'm not in government. I'm not working within the oil industry, so I don't know why. I think the question should be directed to government. But with regard to the currency redesign, there's no doubt that the timing was very, very wrong. The timing was wrong, but the mistake has been made, and Mr. President has pledged that things will be sorted out. So let us give Nigeria, let us give Mr. President 7 days, the 7 days. Out of the 7 days, 3 have gone. So we hope that within this new week, we will have an improvement.
Oh, well, so now let's look at the things happening in the country, Alhaji. What do you make of the fact that the ICPC, the FCC, and the police, and the CBN, the Joint Task Force now, have been consistently discovering saboteurs in the financial sector that are making it difficult for Nigerians to get the cash? Does it bother you that we've gotten to that level where people are sabotaging themselves?
It bothers me as a Nigerian, and it really exposes that after government made the right decision at the wrong time, Nigerians themselves have shown that all the problems is not coming from the government. that individual Nigerians who are very opportunistic, who are very greedy, who work in the banking industry, have, for their personal greed, for reasons of their personal greed, have been taking undue advantage to bring about distress to the ordinary Nigerians who need this money. It's not completely as if government or the central bank has not provided money to the bank. But that Nigerian banker who are not in government, who are, working with banks, are taking undue advantage and oppressing Nigeria. And I expect that EFCC and ICPC will come down very, very hard on these saboteurs and enemies of our society. I mean, I think the president also has a role to continue to insist that those who have brought about this problem, oppression to Nigeria, should be exposed and prosecuted.
All right.
So that will be a lesson for other Nigerians who, want to toe that line of infamy.
All right, looking at all the insecurity issues we're having across the country as well. Just in Katsina over the weekend, 71 people were buried, 27 women were kidnapped as well. And in Ondo State, 6 people were also buried and properties were razed. Your party has been in government for about 8 years now, and nothing significant has really been done on curbing this insecurity issues in the country. What do you say to that? What do you say to that?
Honestly, I have not heard you well. You are talking about insecurity.
Yes.
And what type of insecurity are you talking of?
We've had banditry, we've had cases of kidnap, we've had government attacking communities, across the country. Your party has been in power for 8 years. Nothing has been done.
Well, it will be most unfair to say nothing has been done. It will be most uncharitable for the armed forces police who have even been putting their lives on the line in fighting insecurity and banditry. All over the country, the police have been doing their best. Even if their best is not good enough for the country. But you would recall that this government inherited, banditry and insecurity, particularly with the Boko Haram. At the time this government was campaigning to come into office, insecurity issues were only about around in the northeast and some agitation, but our government was fighting that banditry and kidnapping surface in the northwest. All over the world, these things are right because criminals don't give notice before they strike. So it is after they have struck that government would have to study the situation and take appropriate action. In the case of Nigeria, it became a wildfire spreading all across the country. And I want to say that strong times do not last. Strong people do. Nigerians are getting out by the grace of God. Nigerians will get out of all of this. But as human societies that we are, nobody can guarantee what the future holds. Nobody can guarantee. Because even in the US and in Britain, you find one person just taking the gun and killing 10, 20, 50 people without any provocation. These are criminality, these are acts of banditry that occurs and brings about insecurity, even in schools, in marketplaces, in car parks. So the Nigerian situation may be peculiar, but they are not completely strange because we live in human societies and criminality is one issue which does not give notice before it takes on.
Well, would you have been... Okay.
For me, I continue to commend the armed forces of Nigeria. I commend the police for doing the human job because even their own lives have also, many times been under threat.
Well, would you have been saying this if it was the opposition that has been in power for 8 years?
Beg your pardon?
Would you still maintain this standpoint if the opposition was in power as opposed to your party?
The opposition has been in power with all what they did. It was during the time of the opposition that Boko Haram, emanated, and they simply could not do anything at that time. Recall that budgets were even done to buy arms and ammunition for the armed forces, and the PDP government simply shared the money. They never bought one single arm and ammunition. They mess up with the resources to acquire arms and ammunition. You remember it was only during the Buhari administration that we were able to buy several, aircraft, fighter jets. So the credit must still be given for the sincerity of the Buhari administration in fighting insurgency and banditry and all of that.
Okay, so all right, finish.
Criminals have been neutralized, both in the northeast and in the northwest. And it's a daily affair. It continues daily if you are very conversant with the news.
Okay, so I'd like to take you back to something you said about the government doing the right thing at the wrong time. Which of the policies do you think, the current policies, do you think came at the wrong time?
The policy of redesigning money is a right one, which the law allows. But it was coming at the wrong time when election was just a few weeks away, giving the political opponents of the government and of our party the opportunity, the wrong opportunity, to allege that it was that Tinubu is vicariously liable for the mistakes of the Buhari administration.
So how
is one. The other thing which we must blame the central bank for, if indeed you printed, you are supposed to know how many currency we have in circulation. I'm told it is about 2.something trillion. What the Nigerian Mint can produce, can print at a time, in a year, I am told it is about 1.4 trillion. So they ought to have the foresight to know what is capable of being produced by the Nigerian minting and printing company. In any case, even if you were able to print only what the mint is capable of printing at a time, what is the problem in getting these monies to the bank within a week and giving proper instructions and monitoring to ensure that these monies are there and are available for the ordinary Nigerians who have monies in the bank and who need this money for their various business? So that is where the sabotage comes. So it is between the central bank and Nigerian commercial bank.
All right.
And that is where the mischief comes. If it is not politically motivated, why not wait till after elections? And why not ensure that you have enough time to get this currency to all banks and to ensure proper deployment to Nigerians?
All right. So how would you have preferred that the government went about the cash redesign policy? Because economic analysts have said that there are a lot of things that should have been put in place. You need to have factored in the unbanked people. Yes, you need. Yes, you need to have. You needed to have factored in those who have not bank account.
It was the central bank governor who went to the president for approval. Even without consulting the Minister of Finance and all of that, again, mischief starts from there. So if you went to a Mr. President who is not a financial expert, you got approval. After getting approval, you supposedly got the printing and minting company to order this currency. Why not allow for enough time? Why give a deadline of a month or 2 months or 3 months? So then, and people have begun to suspect that perhaps the central bank do that to blackmail and demarket the candidate of APC. You know, so what ought to have been done, number one, is not to have done this when general elections were a few months away. And if we're doing it to allow like a year, whatever old money is coming to the central bank, you don't allow, to the bank, you don't allow it to go out again. You pay people with new notes. But they refuse to do that, and that is not the problem of APC, nor is it the problem of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a presidential candidate.
But do you honestly think that this current cash crisis would be the one to inform the people about or discrediting the APC before the people? Because we're still, it's a recurring issue. We still have the insecurity issues, pervading the society. We have the economic crisis generally, inflation and all across the society. Do you think that it is just this one that would demarcate the APC, as you've said?
Yeah, that was the calculated goal, we believe. It was a calculated goal. But thank God our officers, our leaders of APC are the ones first raising the issues, first questioning the wrong implementation of the policy redesign. So we are the first to start doing that, criticizing our own leaders, of alleging them that they will do things right. And Nigerians are rational beings. They will see between the lines that it is not a matter or a problem of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu or any of our electoral candidates. It's a problem with the government, and we want to distinguish or separate our candidate from that of people in government who have done things wrongly.
All right, Alhaji, let me also ask you about the current situation regarding fuel scarcity. It's been on for close to 6 months now. And as of December, the NNPC said they had about 34 days sufficiency, millions of liters of petrol, but that is not reflected in the reality. Still people on queues. What do you make of some of these issues surrounding petroleum, especially with the DSS getting involved and there's still no improvement?
Number one, I am not in government. I don't work in the petroleum industry, and I want to advise that I am as much of a victim as any other Nigerian, whether of APC or PDP or whatever. All of us must be on one side against the NNPC and the oil industry officials. We know that price issues are also involved. Nigerians, most of us are very greedy people. The NNPC came out and the government came out with a new price regime, which is less than 200. And private petroleum sellers are threatening that they are going to shut their stations. These are issues, and I want to expect that the National Assembly, our elected representatives, will represent us appropriately and call everybody to order. It's a very complex industry. The oil industry is a very complex one. I've admitted our guilt already in the fact that in the last 7 years, we promised that we're going to refurbish the refineries. I don't have an answer to the fact that up to now we have not been able to do that. But I believe the press should take up this challenge and ask questions from the government. I'm not in the government. And on behalf of Nigerians, we should do that for us so that we end this crisis in the oil distribution system in the country and the oil pricing system in the country.
All right, so let's also come back to the Southwest now. Do you think that it is a good or bad sign that issues of insecurity are on the rise? You know, from the killing in a war some couple of years or months ago, down to kidnappings that are on the rise in the Southwest. As a prominent member of this region of the country, it's happening in every other part of the country, but are you worried that it's getting on the rise here in the Southwest?
Well, everybody will be worried. Everybody will be worried. The issue of insecurity, the Nigerian problem, is not just a Southwest problem. And the police are there, the armed forces are there to solve the problem. I have said one thing, and I want you to take special note of it. Criminals don't give notice. They don't give notice before they strike. So whatever government wants to do, there's no way of knowing the mind of criminals to know when they will strike and when they will not strike in order to take preemptive measures. And this is not limited to Nigeria alone. All over the world, criminals. In New York, for instance, the criminality that happens in New York City alone in a day is more than the level of criminality in the whole of Nigeria combined. I mean, these are evident facts. So we should beg God, and we should also appeal to our government, for instance, to recruit and retrain our police force. We need more policemen, and we need them to be better trained. But again, another problem we have in Nigeria is that it is one thing to train the armed forces and to equip them. The other problem is greed, the level of greed within the police officers, the level of, the extent of commitment to really put their lives on the line in the course of their job. Of course, we have also had saboteurs even in the police and air forces. We have had policemen selling or renting guns to criminals. I mean, that is not the fault of the government. So these are issues that are, societal and issues. That we keep praying and we keep being vigilant.
Okay, so you just spoke about policemen and some security officers not finding it really easy to put their lives on the line. Do you think that could be because of the remuneration issues, some of the welfare issues that surround their conditions of service?
Well, I think there has been an improvement in the remuneration package of policemen. I once had a friend in the police who told me that with the amount of remuneration that they receive now, they don't have cause to take bribes on the roads. But you know very well that taking bribes on the road, perhaps it is only God who can stop that. So it's a Nigerian problem. And when you talk of Nigerian factor, you know that Nigerian factor means cutting corners, it means corruption, it means bribery, it means looking the other way for selfish aggrandizement and all of that. So maybe the Nigerian police needs reorientation, over and above the issue of remuneration.
All right. So over and above that, there are also issues, especially with the war against insurgency in the Northeast. Do you think Nigeria is winning that war?
Of course, we are winning. It's only an ignorant person who will say we are not winning. Before the Buhari administration came on board, Boko Haram were in control of about 24 local governments in the Northeast. And there were so many IDP camps all over the Northeast. Today, all the IDP camps have been banned because the communities have been liberated. Today, there's no single local government under the control of flag of Boko Haram. Today, so many Boko Haram elements have been surrendering to the superior firepower of the armed forces. Today, there are only soft targets by Boko Haram remnants. So we have succeeded substantially, and we must commend the federal government for these successes.
Well, but how then do you explain some of these issues? For instance, my colleague just read out from a paper that 71 persons were buried over the weekend in Katsina. How then do you, if the war against insurgency is being won on the scale that you're talking about?
Would the criminals have given notice to government?
No, you're talking about the insurgency war being won. I'm asking, if you're talking about it on the scale that you're referring to, why do we still have some of these issues happening?
You would ask God that question. It's only God who can answer that question you are putting to me. I have said that criminals don't give notice when they are polarized. They hit back, in retaliation. So such attacks, recent attacks, are attacks to retaliate because of the losses that they have had in recent times. Because many of their leaders have been taken out. So it is a continuous war, and it must continue until God gives us final, triumph over criminals.
Well, Alhaji Shitu, we seem to think that since God would not come down to do this for us, the government should have mapped out strategies to forestall these issues before they eventually happen. Because you keep saying that they don't give notice, but then we know the government should or the security forces should have known how these people operate and what areas they operate from. So maybe strongholds should have been built in such areas to stop this beforehand.
Well, it's good you are giving the suggestion to government. I hope government is listening.
Well, you seem to also have the ears of the government. You're unlike the rest of us who are ordinary Nigerians. Well, you're also an ordinary Nigerian.
I don't give the government house.
You're also an ordinary Nigerian, but you happen to pull more weight than some of us. So probably you could help us suggest to the government.
You are saying that I should help you transmit it to government.
No, I'm not. We're saying no, Alhaji. We're saying that you have more connect than me, for instance. You could help us push some of these ideas, but away from that.
It's a common responsibility of all of us, whether we have been in government before, whether we are in the press. But you know very well that the press is powerful, and you should know how to get these things across to the government. You can take on the government through your investigations. You can take on through a lot of other, modes. I'm just one person. And the problem is the problem of all Nigerians.
Yes, the problem is a problem.
I hope people in government and people in the security forces are listening to us now.
Of course, they are listening to us, and we hope that they will do the right thing. But then, what are your suggestions? Or before we get to the suggestions, Nigeria seems to be on a different trajectory now. Whoever becomes president has a lot of work to do. What are the areas that you think that person should look into and begin to deal decisively with?
Number one, if I have my way, every Nigerian child should be provided with free and compulsory education. A situation where we have so millions of out-of-school children is just waiting. They are waiting time bombs. All these criminals were recruited from those who had been abandoned, who had been denied education, who had been denied modern civilization, who had been denied skills and jobs. So, and that is why you would agree with me that criminality that we have in most of Southwest today are imported criminality. Because if Awolowo had done the best for the Yoruba nation, he had provided free and compulsory education, which many other areas did not think of providing. And so the Southwest makes a lot of difference. So whoever is coming in as president, and I hope and pray that Bola Ahmed Tinubu will come in as our next president, He has what it takes. He's a thinker, he's a philosopher, he's a performer. I hope and trust that he will take this issue of education, at least to catch potential criminals, to catch them young and transform them into human beings, proper human beings. We need free education, we need skills training. Most of those in criminality today, I believe if they had opportunity of being properly trained, properly brought into the civilized communities, will not be into criminality. So that is very, very important. Number two, we need to do a lot of psychological retraining. We should engage a lot of our teachers, Muslims and teachers. Because I don't see a situation where somebody is a Muslim, he pays after slavery, and he doesn't have any gumption to kill. It is self-contradictory. It means our preachers have not succeeded enough to give proper orientation to those who eventually become criminals. So we need to give preachers a place of pride, possibly remunerate them, and let them be able to do what they should do to assist in proper thinking. Number three, we need to bring development to all parts of the country. A lot of leaders in many areas of Nigeria have really failed because they are only interested in their immediate families. They have too much money, which it does not reflect in improving on the welfare of people around them. That is another thing that we have to certainly do. Again, with the armed forces, we should see them as the last line of defense. We should equip them properly. We need a lot of equipment, equipping. We also need to remunerate them appropriately. We need to have insurance cover, life insurance cover for all armed forces and police personnel, so that they know when they are cut down in the line of duty, their families would not suffer. Again, we need a lot of equipment. We should engage in bringing in equipment. Again, I think the other forms of, sub-security personnel should also be equally equipped. I wouldn't mind if the NYC, people who go into NYC are also properly given training. Maybe we should extend the time of NYC 1 year for military training and the second year for the proper NYC course. It should also be equipped and made to be a reserve. In Nigeria today, we have so many retired armed personnel, but who are still very strong and who can be kept in the reserve, security reserve, like it is done in other countries. We need all of this to be done. Again, we need to deploy ICT properly. Unfortunately, this has not yet been done. We need, scanners on our roads and in black spots all over the country. I think with some of these things, we would have a reduction in the effect of insecurity all across this country.
All right, so I haven't spoken about what the next president should do. When you take a look at President Buhari's 8 years, you were part of that. What do you think could have been done better, particularly to show up some support for the government and restore public confidence? But what do you think could have been done better?
Well, we should be charitable to President Buhari in the sense that when he was coming on board, insecurity was only about the Boko Haram. And he mustered all the financial resources to acquire jet bombers and all of that. You recall that during his first term, we didn't have the banditry, the level of banditry that we have in the Northwest now. We didn't have it. It was a new development. And so as it was unfolding, I believe he was taking appropriate steps. But I think what is happening now, we should begin to look forward now that we are preparing for a new regime, rather than looking back at what went wrong. Everybody, those in power and those former knows what went wrong. Let us forget about the past. Let us look forward in hope that the new government will do things differently and better.
We only hope that it's still a question to you that the incoming government, if it be APC, will not give excuses either as to the past governments, leaving them liabilities of insecurity or insurgencies as well.
What, the question again, sorry.
I said, will the incoming government, if it is APC now, would they not give us excuses as well as to the past government or inheriting?
I don't look. Let me ask this question. The two of you interview me now. If each of you is given an assignment, would you do it exactly the same? You do things differently. And the importance of regular elections is to bring in new ideas and new blood. So, I mean, if I was president, certainly I'll do things different. And I pray one day I'll become president. Certainly I'll do things differently in a way that Nigerians will begin to say, where has this man been all these years? But he's not necessarily the best person that gets into public offices, because factors are different. So I assure you that having the antecedents of our incoming president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in governance over an 8-year period, which makes it consistently and perpetually relevant politically over the last 22 years, he will certainly do things differently and better.
Okay, so that's some optimistic promise that you're making to Nigerians there. Now let's look at the campaigns of the APC. There have been some outbursts by the presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, twice in Abeokuta, Ogun State, and in some other places. What do you think prompts some of these outbursts? And some of the outbursts could be misconstrued, have been misconstrued, like the PCC has said. But some persons say it speaks to the fact that perhaps the presidency and not the president now, the presidency and the party and the candidate are on different paths.
Well, they are not on different paths. In many cases, when no matter how close you are, even in a household, I mean, the Yorubas will say, why they resolve there. So that even as husband and wife, you have cause to disagree. And you patch things up once the right thing has been done, once corrections have been done. On the two occasions of the supposed outburst, you know that what comes after has become positive, not only for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but also for our party. So I think they are positive things, if you call them outbursts. After the last one, again in Abeokuta, you know that Mr. President has given commitments and has recommitted himself to the anticipated victory of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in this month's presidential election. So I think I'm happy that it has happened, and I'm happy that positive results have been gotten.
All right, so I would like to thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Alhaji Adebayo Shitu is former Minister of Communications, and he's been speaking to us about the issues, state of the nation that affecting the APC, affecting everybody as a person, as people living in the country. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
It's my very big pleasure.
All right, thank you. Do have a good day.
May Nigeria be better than we make it.
Amen, amen. May Nigeria be better for us all. Well there. some of the things he said.
Yes.
Particularly about the issue of insecurity, you know, saying is a collective responsibility.
For everybody.
And I think we've also made mention of that some of the people who perpetrate these crimes, they are not strangers, you know. Yes.
No. They're people who live within a community, or even if they have now moved out of the community, they were first part of the community, or even if they're not part of that community, I mean, they've been attacking that community over time. So some of those people don't even cover their faces, and so they could be traced. And even if the people would not be willing to do that, or may not be able to do that because of some factors that may play when it comes to attack. I mean, like people have been saying that, you know, these communities that are being raided by these people, that are being attacked by these people, and is it not better to leave armed forces permanently in those areas, you know, so that when they come, they meet a forceful attack as well, to keep them at bay. So, you know, all these issues, we keep having the back and forth, saying that these problems were inherited, and then, you know, that they've been pumping more money and all than the past government. But the people did not elect these people to make excuses. They actually elected them. Some elected them on the basis of the promises to eradicate all of this, you know, thieving problems. But no, we still have them, and they're even festering. And, you know, we're having more complicated issues coming out of them. And so the people then begin to think, what was even their faith for the past 8 years? You know, what have they stood to gain, you know, all along? So the people are actually, you know, facing a lot of hard times.
Well, people are facing a lot of hard times. All of us are having hard times with prayer and hope that the government becomes up and doing and quickly comes to the aid and rescue of people before it escalates into something unsavory. Well, that's the interview segment of the show this morning. I'll be coming back for spring trends shortly.
I hope you get through the day in one piece. Have a wonderful day. I am Temitope Ajitola Oluola.